Yesterday, Gambino member James "Jimmy" Laforte entered a guilty plea in Brooklyn federal court for racketeering conspiracy, Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy, witness retaliation, and to being a felon in possession of a firearm, which happened to be a Smith & Wesson .38. He's the last defendant in the case to plead guilty. Out of 9 of his co-defendants, they were all originally charged back in 2023. Presently, Laforte's in MDC Brooklyn, but had been serving time on a Pennsylvania case after pleading guilty in the Eastern District of that state in September 2024. And on March 13, 2025, he received a 137-month sentence in regard to several charges relating to the PAR funding case. In May 2023, brothers Joseph and James Laforte were charged in a superseding indictment, and again in February 2024 with another superseding indictment for racketeering conspiracy, securities fraud, extortionate collection of debt, obstruction of justice, retaliation, and witness tampering. Joseph Laforte was the CEO of PAR Funding, a Philadelphia-based financial company that operated from 2016 to 2020 and raised hundreds of millions of dollars from investors. Essentially, the company received money from investors, about 1,700 of them, with steady high returns as the incentive. They then lent the money and cash advances to smaller and mid-sized businesses who were unable to secure loans from banks. PAR Funding provided those loans at an extremely high interest rate. A great deal of the investor capital was diverted to the Lafortes for personal gain and use. According to federal prosecutors and the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission, PAR Funding amounted to a $550 million fraud scheme. Here's Jimmy Laforte outside the building that held PAR Funding offices at 141 North 2nd Street in Philadelphia. Years ago, around 2009-2010, I met Jimmy Laforte in a Staten Island gym, and immediately I didn't like the way he conducted himself. Pete LaPella's daughter walked by us, and she was an instructor at the gym, and Laforte said something about her father being a rat out loud. Something I didn't like at all, because whatever her father did has nothing to do with his daughter, who happened to be a very nice woman. At the time, he had just been released from prison and was a Gambino associate. He had prior convictions for loan sharking, gambling, arson, and mortgage fraud. According to the government, he was inducted into the Gambino family in 2019. The Laforte brothers are the grandsons of Joe the Cat Laforte, who was a longtime Gambino captain. In the PAR Funding case, Jimmy Laforte pled guilty to an assault that took place in 2023. Gaetano Alfano was a partner in a Philadelphia law firm and appointed co-counsel to a court-appointed receiver in a civil fraud suit filed against PAR Funding. He was responsible for identifying and securing assets. Those assets were mostly owned by Joseph Laforte, such as cash, real estate, luxury cars, boats, a jet, and artwork. One painting was worth $739,000. On February 28, 2023, Jimmy Laforte followed Alfano as he left his office in Center City. At some point, he crept up behind him and hit him in the head with a metal flashlight, causing Alfano to be in need of 7 stitches in his head. A fellow lawyer from Alfano's firm rushed to help him and spotted the broken flashlight nearby on the ground. He later gave that flashlight to the FBI. Law enforcement identified Laforte from security video, which depicted him removing a jacket and a mask. Yesterday's guilty plea also included Laforte admitting guilt in another assault that took place in 2021. This incident transpired on February 17, 2021, at an Asian fusion restaurant, Say Less, located in Midtown Manhattan on 156 West 38th Street. Lefort, Gambino Captain Giolani, and Gambino associate Vincent Misquero were all in a restaurant when one of them spotted a guy who allegedly was a federal witness and who at the time was having dinner with his girlfriend. According to court documents, Lefort walked over to the guy's table with Misquero, at which time Lefort called the guy a rat, hit him with a bottle in the face, and flipped the table over. All this was done in front of the guy's girlfriend. The identity of the victim is being withheld, and he's only referred to as John Doe 6. On a side note, I used to see Vinny Slick Misquero around Staten Island, and he's a typical wannabe, and one considered an asshole by many. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a like, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. Anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more importantly, help me to continue making them, you can donate with the Super Thanks icon down below or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let me quickly mention my blog, also called Sitdownnews, especially for those of you who still enjoy reading. The site can be found at sitdownnews.com and is a paid subscription. Jimmy Lafort now faces roughly between 8 to 10 years, which would be in addition to the sentence he's already serving in the PAR funding case. No official sentencing date, as far as I could see, has been set after his recent guilty plea. Typically, the judge will order a pre-sentence investigation report prepared by the probation department, and once that's complete, a sentencing date will be put on record. Jimmy Laforte's 49 years old. His scheduled release in the Pennsylvania case is late 2034 or early 2035, which will put him at 58 years old. But then he has another 8.5 years or so to do, so by the time he gets out, he'll be around 66 years old. Speaking from experience, as someone who did 17 years and was a former member of that life, at the end of the day, is it really worth it? Absolutely not. He'll never get that time of his life back. In prison, you're like the Walking Dead. But one thing's for sure, Lefort is very lucky that he didn't pick the wrong guy to approach with a bottle in his hand.